call the Trotwood-Madison August 17th regular board meeting to order. Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Cherry,
Yes.
Miss Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes. Now, if we would stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's see. Can't get to. I can't get. Do you have the mission up? Ms. Moore, would you please read the mission?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Freeman. Sure. Executive content. And this is interesting because on all nights, it usually pops right
I
up.
know, and it did
it's
not.
not popping up. Do you have it, Superintendent?
I can start us
Okay.
off.
Mayor?
Oh, yes, please.
The mission of the Trotwood-Madison City Schools is to graduate all students prepared to excel in a global society with a commitment to lifelong learning by guaranteeing a challenging curriculum facilitated by an innovative and dedicated staff, community participation, and state-of-the-art resources in a stimulating atmosphere.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And now I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda as presented.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Moore, second by Mrs. Cherry. Are there any changes?
No.
If not, Mrs. Allen, would you call the roll?
Gladly. Miss Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes, the motion passed. And now, community comments. Do you have any, Ms.
I
Allen?
do not.
Okay, and we will go to our presentations. And I understand tonight we were gonna do a presentation to our donors, but we're going to actually have a separate celebration just in honor of our donors at a time when we can get the majority, which are quite a few, when we can get them all in sync to have that. Is that true?
Yes, what we're gonna do is plan a reception for them and have them come here and, you know, like I said, we're hoping, right now, we did not have a majority of them, and we just felt that that would be so important to do that type of thing, to have a reception.
Okay, and we
Yes.
would also invite other city officials and other
Yeah.
people to be here,
We'll make it
especially our
very nice because it's
principals.
very important.
Right.
Yes, our principals, I'll make sure my administrative team all are able to come on that date as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And now we're gonna have a presentation of our FY '24 grants by Ms. Jill Adams.
Okay, so I have the pleasure of introducing Jill. So I wanted to just say thank you very much to Jill Adams. I've been here as a treasurer CFO for 12 years, wanting to have this document for 12 years along with the budget document that we have. So Jill said she had the information, she said she could pull it together, and so I'm really excited to go through this grant information so that you can have the information right at your hands and you can flip right through it, and if you have questions, you can see who you pay and the benefits and purchase services or whatever else related to our grants.
Thank you so much.
And I would just like to say she made it this size for me. I'm teasing.
Sometimes they're hard to read. Okay, well, to the members of the board, Dr. Cosby and Ms. Allen, thank you for having me tonight. Eric, can we get it up on the screen too? So I put this book together, and what I hope to do tonight is kind of walk you through it so that if you have a question another time and you want to use it on your own, you know what's there. If you have questions about what you see, feel free to ask me, and I'm also prepared to take notes in case you have suggestions for anything that we could add or anything that might be made more clear in some way. So the first page in the book includes a summary of the grants that we are currently receiving. They're in alphabetical order, and then it also has the fund listed. So if you're looking at purchase orders and you see a fund listed, you would know if it's one of these funds, then it is one of our grants. We also have the FY24 allocation. I do have an asterisk next to the ARP ESSER, and at the bottom it will tell you that's our estimated allocation. We have to do a final expenditure report at the end of September, and as soon as that is done, we'll know the exact amount, but it's roughly $4 million. So just that's there, and it may become more precise after the end of September. So you can see those on that first page, and then if you turn the page, each grant has one page in this booklet. So the purpose of the grant is listed. So the first one is the ARP ESSER. These are, the purpose of this is they're emergency relief funds that are to be used to address the impact of COVID-19 on elementary and secondary schools. This next one, how are the Trotwood-Madison funds budgeted? Salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, and other. Those are the categories within the ODE CCIP system that we have to designate the money. But it's also when we're looking at object codes to put a budget together with the treasurer's office, those are the general categories that we spend from. So for this coming year, our projection is that we would spend about $2,750,000 in salaries, $615,000 in benefits, purchase services, $622,000, and in supplies, just under $12,000. After that, for each of the grants, you'll see what are we doing with the funds for the school year. So for ESSER, we have salaries and benefits for 44 employees. Those include intervention specialists, social workers, the Ram Nation Virtual Academy principal, parent engagers, reserve teachers, and paraprofessionals. We are continuing with the annual fee for metal detectors at the middle school and the high school. Those were initially purchased and the first year fee was paid with ESSER funds. So we're continuing that for this year. We are continuing with Yonder pouches for the middle school, and those, if you'll remember, are the pouches that lock up cell phones during the day so that the teachers don't have to argue with students about their use of those. They can focus on instruction. And then Ram Nation Virtual Academy is also funded with ESSER, and that's the online option for students. So I can go page by page if you would like. The next page is the ARP Homeless. This is to be used to meet the needs of students experiencing homelessness. In the past, we've purchased, we had this grant last year and also this year. We purchased some sanitary supplies for students to keep on hand for our nurses and social workers. Those could be used by students in the school or sent with them to wherever they're living if they need them. This total of about $109,000 is what we have left to spend this year. We will be providing transportation to students who are homeless and live outside the district, so that may mean taking a bus or a van to where they are currently living so that they can continue to come to school here. We will provide school supplies for students who are homeless, and then we can also use these funds to provide supplies for families who are homeless to help them support their students in school. We can even go as far as to buy cleaning supplies for families if they're in a temporary housing situation or get a new house, just so they can kind of feel at home sooner and then support their students in coming back to school.
What about uniforms?
We can buy uniforms with these funds for homeless students.
Right.
Yes.
So do we ask if that is a need for them? Because
Yes.
I found, and I kind of heard from a parent, they might not know that we can provide that service.
So as part of the registration process,
Oh, okay.
or if they're new to the district and coming
Right.
in, as part of the registration process, that's a question and a form that they ask.
Okay.
We do have a room right next to where Mr. Poe works that has some uniforms and supplies, and we plan to use some of this to sort of restock that.
Okay.
That way, if somebody comes in and they need it right away to get started, we can just give it to them.
Okay, thank
Mhm.
you.
Sure. The next page, this is a new grant for this year. And this is a Culture Works grant. This is a grant that can be used to fund supplies for art projects. And we received $10,000. This grant and the other arts grant that you'll be hearing about, we owe a special thanks to Miss Wilburn for really organizing and getting in touch with a local artist who's going to be supporting this. This is a one-year grant, and we'll be buying, like I said, art supplies for projects that that artist will be doing. The next one is our Drive to Succeed grant. This is a grant that we will also be using up this year. We received it last year, but the pieces from the Department of Transportation and Safety weren't in place for us to start using it until the start of the school year. We will be able to pay for 15 eligible students using the AAAA driving school. So parents would be responsible for paying for the online portion of classes, which ranges from $40 to $60. So that way they have a level of commitment in finishing. And then we will use these funds to pay for the in-person drives for students. And this driving school is, I believe it's in Inglewood, but they will be coming to Trotwood-Madison High School to pick students up and drop them off for those in-person drives so that there's no barrier of them getting to that school for the driving. There is not a school that we could find in Trotwood, that's why we're using that one.
So how do students qualify? Because we're only providing it for 15 students. We have far more than that, so.
So I'll be working with the counselors. When we wrote the grant, we specified that students, we wrote it long enough ago. What we said was that during the first semester of school from last year, students would have 5 or fewer unexcused absences, because we're looking for somebody that once we commit to paying for it, they'd be
Right.
likely to finish. And also, the other component is that they have a 2.5 GPA. So we'll be working with the counselors to identify who those students are, and then we will send an email and a Google form to the parents so that they can sign up. And really, we'll just take them in the order that they respond to keep
okay.
it fair, because they all will have met the qualification if they
Right.
get the chance to
Right.
apply. The next one is for early childhood education. This is a grant that helps us to provide high-quality early learning services to preschool-age children. This one, in the past, we are able to claim $4,000 for each student that is eligible through ODE's requirements, and that would either be they meet an income eligibility level or they are a student with an IEP. This year, that amount has been raised to $4,250 per student, so we'll be able to claim more of those funds for students who meet those qualifications, who are a good amount of our students. So we have $501,500 allocated. This is one where we don't always spend all of the money, because if we can't fill all of the spots that they gave us, we can only claim reimbursement for the spots that we fill. We can also use this for some of the supplies for those classrooms, which we'll be doing this year.
Question.
Yes.
So for the early childhood education, if we have preschoolers who attend other out of the district preschool,
Mhm.
does this grant help with transportation?
It does not, no.
So if the parent was to submit like their mileage or anything like that, does this go for that as well? Or?
Do you mean if they're a Trotwood student and they're choosing to go to school in another district? This grant doesn't cover that, but I don't want to speak that the district would, but we do for students who can't provide transportation in some other ways. Next up is the Expanding Opportunities for Each Child grant. The purpose of this grant is to expand access to and increase enrollment in school improvement activities for low-achieving students and students from low-income families. This has 4 focus areas: advanced coursework, career pathways, personalized learning, and credit recovery and academic acceleration. So we can use these funds at the high school if we're adding an AP class, for example, if we're adding a new CCP class at the high school, we can pay for the materials. Anytime we add a new advanced class, we can pay for the startup materials for that first year to get it off the ground with these funds. We can also use these funds if there are teachers who are interested in teaching a CCP course or an AP course and they need additional training, we can use these funds to prepare the teachers for that so that then we can offer the course the next year. We also pay, oh, that's not this one, that's another one. So those are things that we can do with the expanding opportunities for each child grant. The next one is typically called the IDEA grant, but it is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And we use these funds to support providing special education services to children with disabilities who are ages 3 to 21 in our district. We spend the majority of these funds on salaries and benefits for intervention specialists, and we have one paraprofessional that we fund from this grant as well.
This grant is for how many years?
The IDEA is a grant that we receive annually through ODE. The amount sometimes changes, so we have to sometimes make decisions in what we're doing, but that's an annual allocation.
Thank
Mhm. The next one is IDEA Early Childhood Special Education, and this allocation, you'll see it's much smaller, it's just over $14,000, and we use this to offset some of the cost of an intervention specialist to work with our preschool students. They can work with students who are identified, but also do some early intervention with students who are not identified, but the teachers say, you know what, they really could use some extra support. Can they work in that group too? So that's what we use the IDEA Early Childhood Fund for. And that's another one that we receive every year. The next one is new this year. This is the counterpart of the Culture Works grant. This is the Teach Arts Ohio grant. It was awarded to us by the Ohio Arts Council, and again, thank you to Ms. Wilburn for the work that she did in working with the local artists to bring this to us. We were granted a total of $117,600 that will be used in 3 of our schools, at Madison Park, Westbrook, and the middle school. And this funds an artist in residence program. And these are visual arts. So we'll be using that $10,000 in funds from Culture Works for the supplies that this artist will be using with students in the building. That work will happen in partnership with the art teacher. And then I know, just in communicating with the artist, she very much believes that exposure to the arts increases grades and the whole child. And so she wants to also share any ways that she can to incorporate art into the content areas that the teachers are teaching as well, just share ideas with them. So that's the Teach Arts Ohio. This next one, Title I-A, is it's a supplemental grant that we can use to help improve the academic performance of educationally disadvantaged students. We use this for lots of things. We have reading and math intervention teachers. In the ELC, we provide a paraprofessional in every kindergarten classroom, which we're not required to do. That's a supplemental choice that we make because we think it makes a difference to have those 2 adults during that first full year of school. We pay for our Director of Family Engagement position out of this. We know how important it is to engage families in the work of the schools. We pay for our elementary school counselors from this. Unbelievably, we're not required to have a counselor in every elementary school, so that is a supplemental position we pay for with these funds. We pay student encouragers. We can provide supplies for family engagement events, and then also supplemental classroom supplies and materials. So not the regular paper, pens, pencils, markers that they need, but if there's something extra beyond that they want to do that they think will make a difference, we can fund some of that. This is also a grant that we receive annually. And the amount is again, it's not always the same, so.
So Dr. Cosby, on this one, is it one that we could use for the additional drones that the students needed? Or we already have these budgeted for other things?
I think we'll, one of the ones that's still coming up, we should be able to do that with.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
thank you.
Sure. The next is Title I Supplemental School Improvement, and these funds for us are only available to Westbrook Village and to the high school. And they qualify for these because they've been identified as a priority, focus, or alert school. So based on their district report card information, they're scoring in an area where the state says we'd like to give you funds for more support. So we have budgeted those funds for additional professional development to the staff. We know we have a lot of new curricular materials, and we've given everyone professional development, but we can do more of a focus in these buildings. The nice thing about these funds is you can pay for those professional development opportunities at the building, and if there are extra seats available, then you can invite anybody else in the district. So it's a way that we can benefit everybody. We can also use this for supplemental tutoring for students in those buildings if we choose to do that. The next one is Title IIA, and the purpose of this grant is to provide, again, supplemental activities that strengthen the quality and effectiveness of teachers, principals, and other school leaders. We use these funds for a lot of professional development. That's what it's for. It's to improve the quality of everybody who works with or makes decisions for the students that are in our schools. We can provide tuition reimbursement to staff who complete college coursework related to their job, and we typically set aside about $50,000 a year for that. And staff does take advantage of that after their 1 year of employment. We have two. Yes, they can get $3,000 each, so there is a limit. There is a limit per fiscal year. We do have 2 national board certified teachers, and they receive a stipend every year because they hold that certificate, so we do give them that stipend from this Supporting Effective Instruction Fund. And then we can also just provide anything that comes up that we know staff need, or if we, within our professional development plan, we can do those activities with these funds.
How much is that stipend?
$2,500. The next one is Title III. This one is, it's only $3,700, and I believe it has to be over $12,000 for you to receive the funds directly. So this money, we work with the Montgomery County ESC as a consortium. So we get to spend this entire $3,700.07 amount, but we have to work through the ESC to make the purchases for it. So we typically spend this to do translating. We bring in translators for students who don't speak English who can help them by translating what the teacher is saying, or by helping to read and translate some of the assignments, especially when they're brand new. In the past, we've also purchased some Rosetta Stone licenses for students to be able to work with to hopefully pick up English a little more quickly. Yes.
And we currently we just got 6 new students at Madison Park from Rwanda who don't speak English at all, and their parents don't speak English at all. So this is the type of thing that we will need to figure out, and it's good to have some money to spend on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this amount, I mean, really makes just a dent in the amount that we spend for these translation services and supports. This amount maybe covers a month of the school year. So the rest is paid for by the district. Okay. The next one is Title IV, Student Support and Academic Enrichment, and this is to increase the district's capacity to provide all students with access to a well-rounded education. This is the grant that we'll be able to purchase the drones for, because it makes for that well-rounded education. We pay for our middle school Project Lead the Way teacher using this fund because it's a way that we expose all middle school students to STEM, hoping they'll make some choices when they're in high school within their schedule that they'll keep doing that work. We have Muse Machine Artist in Residence at the Early Learning Center, Madison Park in Westbrook. So that's not visual arts, but that would be performing arts. Each grade level is broken into 2 groups, so 4 classrooms get 1 week at a time. So they're here really, we have one artist and she's with us a good part of the year. She's 4 weeks in preschool, 4 weeks in half of kindergarten, 4 weeks in half of kindergarten. And she doesn't go in order by grade, she just works with the buildings to see what time makes the most sense for them. So I asked her if she could send us her schedule as soon as she gets it this year, because they always have a culminating performance, and they're really fun to watch, and we'd like to make sure everybody's invited, just so you can see what they're doing. We can also use these funds to purchase supplies for Project Lead the Way or other coursework that incorporates the things that would be within the purpose of the grant.
On most of these where we have the purchase services, I know we have quite a few that are contracts. Is
Mhm.
that the case with these also?
It would depend. For this one in particular, the purchase service is the Muse Machine contract for the year.
Okay.
And then the last page, I put this in because I think a lot of times, it's easy for people who work with these things all day, every day, to start throwing out acronyms that you might not catch. And so this was everything I could think of this week, but I'm sure we could add more if you want to. But these are just some acronyms that might help you in not only understanding grants, but other initiatives that the district is working on. So that's the end of what I have for you, and if you have any questions or suggestions for clarity, I'd be happy to take them.
I do have a question, Madam President.
Yes.
The question I have is every time ESSER, I see 44 employees are funded through that, and we know those funds are running out. Have we had that discussion? What's the plan? How we're going to fund those? Because these are important positions, intervention specialists, social workers, parent engagers, all of those.
Mhm.
What are we doing? Are we keeping those 44 employees next year? What's the plan?
So we are working together to determine which employees will stay. Some, like you say, intervention specialists, you know, we have to have those. We're looking for grants to maybe fund some of the positions in other ways, but we can't afford 44 to go back onto general fund. So yes, we are working on determining, you know, which ones we can keep, what we can find grant money to support in another way, and then which ones we may have to just part ways with.
How many staff can be supported by the general fund? If we don't get the grants, how will that mess up our 5-year forecast?
Yeah,
What is it looking like with that?
and I can't tell you the number, Mr. Anderson, but for this FY 25, we have put in the 5-year forecast $1.8 million to bring back in. So depending on, you know, what that looks like, we calculated that about approximately 20 employees.
20 employees.
But that was out of the initial 60. Yeah, so it just depends. So we're still working on that. We'll be able to give you something more definitive, I would say, probably by the first of the year.
All right, awesome. And my last, well, 2 more things. I would love for the art teacher to come in and do a presentation because you have mentioned several times that she has participated in securing some of these grants. Just a meet and greet opportunity, and I can also go to the buildings too, but
Sure, and Ms. Wilburn actually is, she was an assistant principal at the middle
assistant,
school.
excuse me,
And
I'm
she's the
sorry.
principal at the ELC this
Oh,
year.
okay,
So yes.
excuse me.
Yes.
All right, awesome. And I think I met her, okay, yeah, thank you.
But I'm sure
Thank
we
you.
can find a way to share those
All right,
projects.
yeah.
That grant actually will culminate at the end of the year with a gala that we'll host here to show off all of that work. So you'll certainly be invited then, and if we can get you in sooner, we will.
All right, and thank you for your awesome presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I've been asking for this since I've started, and
Good,
I
thank you.
got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Ms. Janice.
You're
for
welcome.
this.
Any other comments?
I just echo Craig's comments. This is really good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the acronyms.
You're welcome.
The little things. This was a really good presentation. It included all the information, so we can clearly reference back when we're looking and have a question. And one of the things, Board, Superintendent and Treasurer, we do need to look at fairly in the short term is our mini retreat or special meetings so that we can start to look at what our spend down plan will be. because the ESSER, the only thing we didn't have on there were the years, and I think I know ESSER is 2024.
Sure.
So-
So the other ESSER grants that we had received, they had to be, ESSER 1, we've already completed the
Right,
spend down.
right.
ESSER 2, we've completed the spend down for
Right.
this year, so we're really just left with this ARP ESSER.
Right, and and those that you've identified here.
Yes.
Yes, so, if, I'm not sure what that timing looks like for
Do you mean,
superintendent treasurer.
You mean a time now, a meeting to discuss that?
Okay. You said a retreat, right?
for the ARP ESSER?
No, it's,
Or just-
yes.
Okay.
It's the ARP and the S, yes.
So you're saying how do we,
So-
the
Yeah.
retreat to discuss that 44 down
Right,
to
our
what
strategic
it's gonna be?
planning for how we're gonna move forward
Right.
and,
'Cause
so board comments.
Yeah, because again, those are very vital positions. And if we can prevent from laying off any staff, I think that will be important to talk about.
President, maybe we can just coordinate our calendars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from there.
For this particular thing, you know, for us to really know what's happening with the money and what we're spending it on and all, probably a little later rather than sooner, more like a December retreat, early January, something like that.
Okay, and this is not so much to talk the specifics, but it is the overview of, also to kind of look at some of the things that we spent ESSER for, those things and programs that work, that we want to continue.
Right.
New ones that we want to bring in. I know we mentioned, and I think we did get that, the science lab upgrades.
Right.
And you know, we had the cool math Google.
Right.
So did we buy more of those? Do we need to buy more of those? So it's really kind of strategic planning to set the path forward. Board,
Okay. And if you wanna have it a little sooner, that's fine, because
Okay.
if we needed to do another one after that.
right,
then
right.
we could.
And I'm sure we would.
Yeah, yeah, because
Right.
I know what you're saying, it's like an overview.
Right.
And then how we're gonna get there.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha.
Okay, so October time?
Yeah, in October or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
that
Okay.
sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that good? Okay,
I'll just check with everybody.
all right, thank you.
Mhm.
Now we're into the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes for July 13th, 2023. And approval of the student activity statement and budget for JROTC. And for those that were watching our last board meeting, which was our work session, we did cover in detail and ask questions on each of these items that are on the consent agenda. I don't believe we have anything new. And the next one, approval of the student activity statement and budget for Madison Park Elementary. It's the Principal General Activity Fund. And the item D, approval of the student activity statement and budget for the Early Learning Center, Principal's General Activity Fund for 2023-24. And then approval of our out-of-state overnight field trip for our band is item E. And item F, approval of an overnight field trip also for the band. So I'll take a motion.
I'd like to move that we accept the consent agenda as presented, A through F.
I second.
Been properly moved by Ms. Moore and second by Mrs. Cherry. Any comments, discussion further? If not, Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes, the motion, that motion for those consent agenda items pass. And now, board report. I guess it's time for us to identify or raise your hand if you would like to be the delegate for the annual business meeting for the Ohio School Board Conference. And that will be November 13th of this year.
Nobody else will do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, go.
Mr. Anderson?
Okay.
Okay, so Mrs. Allen, Ms. Allen, Miss-
We need a delegate and then an alternate.
and an alternate. You would like to be the alternate, Ms. Moore?
You are gonna show
Yes.
it. The alternate.
So
we're just,
we will have, and for the general public, so the Ohio School Board Conference is where they have student groups presenting. It's like a big fair in the back. They have vendors in the great big open space. And they have hundreds of different learning sessions. They have them broken out in all different categories and area. The delegate, so the Ohio School Boards Association put together a book of all of the policies that they are supporting for the year. And the delegate will go in this general assembly room, and as they go through and discuss, everybody stand if they're in agreement, or they sit if they're not. And you can raise your hand and have discussion. So just a little background on what that is.
So we need a motion.
We need a motion to accept Mr. Anderson as the primary and Ms. Moore as the alternate.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Moore and second by Mr. Anderson that they will be the alternate and the delegate and the alternate. Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
yes, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes, the motion passed. Now we will move to the treasurer's reports.
Okay, there was a financial meeting this evening. Board member Cherry and myself, reviewed all of the financial reports as well as the financial reports that I will talk about, now. So, the first one, is the cash reconciliation for the month of July. And our investment, with our investment in bank balances is $31,588,929.73. With outstanding checks and our adjustments, it does, our adjusted bank balance then would be $31,523,181.37. And that matches exactly to our financial, data on our financial system. The next report is our July spending plan summary report. And it indicates that the revenue for the month of July was $3,665,709. Our expenditures totaled $2,640,776. So for the month of July and fiscal year to date, because July is the first month of the fiscal year '24, our revenue did exceed our expenditures by $1,024,933. From the meeting, financial meeting this, from last meeting, you asked me to pull a check because we did not know what it was for or who it was. So it was check 1101-643, and it was made out to EMS space LINQ, comma, Inc. And that, for an amount of $5,805.24. This is for our website, www.trotwood.k12.oh.us.
Oh,
That's for our
okay.
website,
Thank you.
okay? There were two more checks that we pulled. One check was 1101-737 in the amount of $15,970.50. It was made out to Computers and Education, and it was for formative assessments. And then the last check was to, check 1101-750 to Charlene Booker for $1,615.65. And this was for FY '23 payment in lieu of. She has 3 children, and each child was $538.55.
Hmm. And Miss, wait. So I'll take a motion to approve the treasurer's reports.
I'll move to approve the treasurer's item A, financial reports.
It was moved by Ms. Moore and second by Mrs. Cherry. Are there any comments, questions?
I do have a comment, Madam Chair, in regards to the payment to the website. So that's to monitor, update, the licensure for the website, correct? All of that? The host-
That's to host it, to host the website, to
Okay.
have it.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes, the motion passed.
And just an FYI, board, the complete financial report is under the executive tab on board docs.
Okay.
6B is the new amended appropriations for, at this time, for this meeting. And it is in the amount of $55,486,008.72. And so this is the first time that we put on the appropriations for FY '24. We ran this report right off the system. And so I'm asking for your vote this evening to approve the appropriations that are on, that will be, I should say, will be on the system for that amount. And that covers what we know for now. And as you know, I come probably every other month with additional appropriations. So I would just like your approval for those appropriations this evening.
I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve treasurer's item B as presented.
I'll second.
It was moved by Ms. Moore and second by Mrs. Cherry. Are there any questions, comments? If none, Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes. The motion passed. And now we will enter into superintendent's report.
Okay. The first thing that I have for you is, I'm opening it so I can read it. Okay, I got it. I know, I got it. All right, I found it. It was spinning on me. Dr. Cosby, I'm requesting the Board of Education approval of our continued participation in the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program via our compliance with meal requirements and standards provided by the USDA. Attached is a summary of the guidelines that will be in full compliance through our cooperative purchasing memberships. All food will adhere to all federal standards upon purchase. Thank you. That's from Mr. Howard. So we're asking for approval of us continuing to participate there.
Okay. I'll take a motion.
I'll move to accept superintendent item A as presented.
I second.
Moved by Ms. Moore and second by Mr. Anderson. Any questions, comments? Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry?
Yes.
And Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes, the approval of the federal food participation in the National Lunch Program is approved.
Okay. Thank you. And now we have our personnel agenda for action. And I'll go through this quickly. For our certified personnel agenda, which is Agenda A, we have a recommendation for the approval of the following certified limited one-year contracts for the 23-24 school year. A2 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified event staff for the 23-24 school year. For our personnel, our classified personnel agenda B, B1 is a recommendation for the approval of the following classified position change for the 23-24 school year. B2 is a recommendation for the approval of the following classified new hires for the 23-24 school year. B3 is a recommendation for the approval of the following classified event staff for the 23-24 school year. For our administrative personnel agenda, C1 is a recommendation for approval of the following administrative resignation for the 23-24 school year. C2 is a recommendation for the approval of the following two-year administrative contract for the 23-24 school year. That's everything.
Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the personnel agenda.
I'll move to approve Superintendent item B as presented. Second.
Moved by Ms. Moore, second by Mrs. Cherry. Are there any questions or comments? If not, Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Moore.
Yes on all items and no on C2.
Mrs. Cherry.
Yes, on all items.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes. The personnel agenda has been approved.
Thank you.
And now we will move to board comments. Mr. Anderson.
Madam Chair, I have no comments for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Moore.
Oh, I do have some comments, okay? Oh, did we do this?
You skipped us.
You skipped
Oh,
them.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we skipped both of them.
Let's
It's
do
all
a
right.
reverse here.
Okay, well, I'd rather defer. I don't wanna.
We're gonna rewind back. Mr. Anderson will have no comments, and we will go to Ms. Allen.
I didn't have any comment.
Janice, you sure you didn't have any comments?
I don't think so. Yeah, we've just been working hard to, I do. We've been working very hard in our department, at my treasurer's office, to make sure that we pay everyone correctly and accurately and on time, timely. And so next week on August 25th will be a very large payroll, and that will include all of the teachers, all of the paras, bus drivers, food service, et cetera. So I'm really excited about next Friday.
Okay, Superintendent Dr. Cosby.
Okay, I do have a few. I did want to start off with saying we've had a great start to the school year. I'm really excited about it. I believe everyone in the district is. We are aspiring to go higher. We made that clear at our convocation, and as I've been going through the buildings, I've been seeing a lot of people who are really working hard, and we're going to make this the best year ever. So we're real excited about that. At the last meeting, after we had turned off things, I introduced you to two of my new administrators, so I would like to publicly introduce them now. We have Mr. Mark Manley, our HR Director.
Okay,
And we have Ms. Rachel Murdoch, Director of Instruction and School Improvement.
welcome.
And they've both been extremely busy, as you can imagine, at this time of year, and doing a great job. Also, thank you, Jill, for that presentation. I agree with the board. It was very good. Thank you. Also wanted to let you know that, the Hall of Fame game is Friday night. At halftime is when they'll introduce the people who are being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And also, there is a reception from 5 to 7 tomorrow. Also tonight, as you know, there is a, they're starting back up the booster, and so it is a reception that we've been invited to. You can go, we have tickets free, and I don't think you have to hand a ticket, but you're invited in. But if you wanted to give a donation, you could, okay?
Okay.
Also, I did want to take a second and mention that our resignation was Mr. Jim Putman. He's been with us for 14 years. He's decided to go to Springfield, and he was really torn about it, but he lives in Columbus. And it's a 30-minute, cutoff from him getting there. So we had a great 14 years with him. He will be missed, but I wanted you to know that that's what's going on with our food service right now. So we're in the process of replacing his position.
Okay. Very good. Now, we're gonna rewind because Mr. Anderson, I believe, has comments.
No, I did want to give a big shout out to Dr. Cosby in regards to the convocation that was held last Friday. I did enjoy that from the board's perspective. Regardless of what's been said, everybody did open us with open arms. We were able to have conversations with some of the employees throughout the district and get to see the enthusiasm of the new school year, especially when you shouted out each principal. They got to basically give congrats to returning staff. Thank you for all the staff for your years of service to Trotwood-Madison. I'm part of, I guess I'm in the millennium group. They say that we don't stay at a job longer than a year, but it's awesome to see people still sticking around to service the children. We'll come back and say, hey, that used to be my teacher, and now you're teaching my child or my brother and sister. But I just wanted to thank you for the invitation to that particular event, and I'm super excited about this new year. So I got my brother on board, and we're gonna make it happen this year.
Very
Thank
good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now Ms. Moore.
Thank you, President Jeter Freeman. I echo Craig along the lines of the convocation. It was high energy, it was very welcoming, it was very inviting, and it was well put together. As a matter of fact, we sent out invitations to our community partners, other elected officials, and I talked with Carl Key, and it was a good event, and it felt good starting out a new year. So I want to just commend you. And the video, the teacher who submitted the video, it couldn't have been more perfect for your message. Aspire to go higher. I love the slogan, but what I love the most is the customer service focus. I know we've talked about that for years, and it just felt really good to see it resonate through the district. And I am excited about this year. I'm looking forward to great things. I know that our city is expecting great things. We're doing well in Trotwood as a whole. One of the things, as the school board city liaison, the city has offered, and they want to acknowledge our food service staff, all of them, for the work that they do, ground level. That they have a very, very important role. And that kind of came out of that convocation as well, all right? So again, want to make sure that each of them are recognized by the city manager and the council and mayor as a whole. I also wanted to say this because I think it's important, and I've already spoken with Madam Chair about this particular item, and I also spoke with the superintendent. One of the things that I have come to realize, sitting on as a member of this board, we used to have a fellow board member, which I highly respect, that would vote no on things. And one of the things that would make me very upset was, why? Why? Honestly, tell us why. And not only tell us why, but tell the community why. And I think that's very important for transparency. And also openness and honesty. And I want to follow suit to that. And I want to share, the vote no this evening was not a vote no to the individual. The vote no on the position, as we discussed, I had a different stance on some of the terms. In addition to that, one thing that I want to know that I want to feel comfortable with, I live here. I live in Trotwood. I'm a community member. When I go out, I want parents not to be complaining. I don't want to hear students having to complain and having to email any of us on this dais about their concerns in their building. I don't want them to feel afraid. I want them to feel empowered, and I want to be able to speak to that. And speaking with Dr. Cosby, it sounds as if that is her charge, and I respect that, and I thank you for that. So again, when we make decisions up here, we have to stand on them. It is our record, and I, along with my colleagues, we vote based on our record, based on experience, information, and data. So I wanted to share that because I think it's important that people understand the responsibility and the heavy weight that we carry as elected officials. So I just wanted to say that. Very good presentation. Thank you so much. We've been waiting for something like this for a very, very long time. Dr. Cosby, thank you for the invitations to shadow in the buildings. I will take you up on that.
Okay.
All right?
Sounds
Sooner
good.
than later. We'll have to spread it out though, because I work during the day. All right?
Right.
So it's like 5 lunch hours. All right?
got you.
But I appreciate it, and thank you.
Ms. Cherry?
Well, good evening. First, I want to just bring some information to you from CTC.
Oh.
Currently, we had 68 students that applied. 9 did not have enough credits to qualify for some of the programs. 2 decided to withdraw, and now we're down to 57 that's accepted, which is an acceptance rate of 75%. I just wanted to let you all know where our students are standing in reference to CTC. Also, I'm just so elated to hear that we're having a great year already. Just this little week, we've had a great year. No complaints. Well, I haven't received any complaints, and I live here in the city as well. And I hear a lot. People email me just as well, text, stop by in the community. So I want the best for Trotwood. So I am elated to hear that we're off to a great start. So aspire to go higher. Work hard and be nice to people. That's just, that sums it all up, and if we work well together, work collectively, I think we will make a huge change and change the climate at Trotwood. We're here for the students, nothing else for me but students. Also, I want to piggyback just a little bit off of what Ms. Denise Moore said about voting. I take the voting very seriously as well, and yes, we do have a responsibility to the community, we do, but also I vote based off facts, totally off facts, and that is my responsibility to our district. So I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. I'm looking forward to continued success for all of our Trotwood students. Again, welcome back the staff and welcome the new staff. I look forward to an awesome year.
Thank you, board members, for all of your comments. I think we've summed up the convocation. It was a great kickoff. It really was. I think there was high energy. I think our returning felt like, cheers. It's kind of good to come back where everybody knows your name. And for our new employees, I think they felt welcome. So I think we are creating that culture of positivity, and it's going to be a good year. As I said, within that room of all of our staff, if we look and we aspire to go higher, aspire to be that teacher of the year, that staff of the year, that administrator of the year, and principals look to identify those people, they are here at Trotwood. So this year, let's fill out those forms. Let's recognize people as they're doing things. I'll share with you a little thing I do. I go in Meyer, I go in Kroger, wherever I get good service, I always call back to say, may I speak to the manager? And they immediately think something is wrong. I call Meyer and I said, I wanted to applaud Molly. She was my checkout and she did a great job. He said, thank you. And he said, we go, we recognize them, and we give them a $25 gift card. So let's do the same thing. Let's create that culture within Trotwood, whether it is your peer or a parent that come in. Let's just make sure we recognize, let's see the good and share a smile. This is gonna be a great year. I'm excited for all of us. What else? Student representative. I sent out our form. I think, Ms. Moore, you sent me some changes.
Yeah, I'll make sure you have them tonight.
Yes,
Okay,
because we want our 2 seats on the infield, because that's our responsibility that we have to make sure we take care of. And with that, I don't think I have anything else. Welcome. It's gonna be a great year, and I'm looking forward to it. So, do we still need an executive session? Okay, so we will omit that, and we'll move down to item number 12, which is adjourn. Ms. Allen, would you please?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay. We're adjourned.
And I second.
Got a second? Got a second. Okay, Ms. Moore. Oh, can I? Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
And Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes, we are adjourned.